What's up, Bills fans? I'm here to jump on some salary cap stuff. Look at what the Bills are probably going to do next year. I do need a shave, but it's all good. Trim at least, get my lineups, but not worried about it. So looking at the salary cap, the adjusted salary cap is going to be about 188 according to Spot Rack, and was it active contracts? Buffalo's at 184. Dead cap 2, rollover 3.7. All right, so total is 187. Looks like we are just under the cap, right? For next year, if this is correct. Right, so estimated cap space $3,869,000 and some change, right? So who do we have that needs to be re-signed? Matt Milano is the first one that comes to mind for everybody, and Darrell Williams. Matt Milano's calculated market value looks to be about 13.8 million, and Darrell Williams is about 7.9, or we'll just say 8, because why? Feliciano is looking at 8.4. And they got Josh Allen's, Tremaine Edmonds, and Micah Hyde's up here. Micah's still under contract this year, so it's not that big a deal. Although this coming year is his contract year. He signed a 5-year deal, so his deal should be up soon. Now, what can the Bills do to create some salary cap space? Well, if I'm looking at players that have lower dead cap numbers, you have, your guys who you're going to keep anyway because there's no reason to get rid of them, like your Tyrell Dodsons, your Reggie Gilliams, Tommy Sweeney, Darrell Johnson, Saran Neal. You shut your face. The little advertisement popped up on Spot Rack. Saran Neal, Jaquan Johnson, Isaiah Hodges, Tyler Bass, Taron Johnson, Harrison Phillips, Tyler Medikevich, Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary, Gabriel Davis, Zach Moss, Jake Fromm. Vernon Butler is the first one that comes up on the list. When I sort by dead cap, that makes any sense, right? So his salary is $7,818,000, and his dead cap is $1 million. So drop him, save $6.8 million. Reed Ferguson is not going anywhere. Quentin Jefferson, his dead cap is 1.5 mil. He's making 8. Cut him, save another 6.5 mil. John Brown. I don't like the idea of losing John Brown, but the fact is John Brown is coming off of an injured season, but we can save about 7.9 million, about $8 million cutting him. I'd probably look for a trade partner. You can probably get a 5th round pick for John Brown, maybe a 4th, if you're lucky. If there's a team out there who's like, we're a piece away and we'll drop a 4th, take it. That's what I would do. Micah Hyde is at 6.7 million this year, and his dead cap is 1.6, but he's not going anywhere. We're not breaking up the boys. Jordan Poyer, we just paid him. He's not going nowhere. Jerry Hughes, interesting one. He's scheduled to make about 2.1 in dead cap, but his salary is 9.45. So at 9.45, you'd be looking to save 6.35 by cutting Jerry Hughes or trading him. I don't see that happening. He gets way too much pressure. We just need somebody on the side from him to actually allow him to get home. It's been tough to find those persons. Ed Oliver is doing his job, but he's also playing out of position. And then without Starlo Talele to kind of, eat blocks, Ed has been taking the double teams on. And, Mario Addison is more of the same side as Jerry, so there's no real help there. And A.J. Epinesa played well this year, but we'll see. I don't see Jerry Hughes going anywhere. I see us, getting rid of a bunch of these, average tackles and looking for a defensive tackle who's going to be a stud. Maybe like a Dontari Poe, somebody who's going to get in there and really create a little havoc. Even though we're getting a star back, that should help. Our run defense was 10th in the league in 2019, and it was 21st or somewhere between 17 and 21 this past year. It wasn't good. Our run defense went down, even though in 2019 our run defense wasn't really that good to begin with. And 2020 it was worse, way worse, not close. All right, AJ Epinesa after that. His dead cap is above his salary, so no one cares. Cole Beasley scheduled to make $7.4 million this year, and we would only say 4.4 cutting him, and we're not cutting Cole Beasley. He's not going anywhere. He was our second best receiver. He had almost 1,000 yards. If he doesn't break his leg, he probably gets over 1,000 yards, and we have our first time ever having 2,000-yard receivers in a season, but didn't happen, unfortunately. Mario Addison, he's going to be 35 this year. He's scheduled to make 10.1 and dead cap of 4. I would drop him. Sorry, Mario. I'd find a trade partner, try and get a 6th or 7th round pick for him. The thing about Brandon Beane is he doesn't ever lose something for nothing. He just doesn't, right? So Trent Murphy was damn near untradeable because no one wanted to, take that $8 million and then cut him to re-sign him. No. But Mario Addison, before he came to Buffalo, had 9 sacks every year, like clockwork, 4 years in a row. He came to Buffalo, he had 4.5, 5 this year. So, and that's on a rotational basis. You put him in there more as a starter, he's gonna get his numbers again. Maybe for another year or 2. He's more of a power rusher, so that would make sense for somebody to trade. Maybe between a 5th and 7th round pick to get Mario Addison, and I would pull the trigger on that in a heartbeat. AJ Klein, he would only save us 2.4. His dead cap is $4 million, just like Mario Addison's, but Mario Addison is scheduled to make 10, and AJ Klein is scheduled to make 6.4. And AJ Klein actually looked a lot better later on in the season. He looked pretty terrible in the first part of the season, but as the season went on, he improved. And in the Seattle game, man, he was lights out, man. That game was wild, right? Then we're looking at Tremaine Edmonds. He's not going anywhere. His dead cap money and his salary are exactly the same, and he's our first round rookie. From a few years back as a inside linebacker, and really Tremaine Edmonds is he's still a work in progress, man. He's like 22 years old. He's in his 3rd year in the NFL. That's crazy. We drafted him at 19. We're gonna re-sign him. He's gonna be with us for a while. We're gonna teach him the ways of the Jedi in Buffalo. He's come along quite a bit, and with Matt Milano potentially leaving, that is pretty substantial. We probably need to get him a trade part. We probably need to get him a partner through trade, the draft, free agency, however, or we can try and re-sign Matt Milano. Mitch Morse, dead cap of 5.5, and he's scheduled to make 10.3. You could get rid of him, but why? Like you'd save half the money. I would keep Mitch. Excuse me. Didn't mean to burp in your ears. Josh Allen, he's not going anywhere. Ed Oliver, not going anywhere. Starr's not going anywhere. His money is way too crazy. Diggs is not going anywhere. Deion Dawkins is not going anywhere. Neither is Davis White. All right, so there you go. That's all our active roster guys who are worthy of being cut now. So if I do a little math here, I'm going to go ahead and get my little calculator out. Bear with me. I'm just trying to, get the math right. So we, the Bills, are at $3.869, $343 million in estimated cap. Then, if we take Vernon Butler's numbers here and we add +6, 818, 750. We're looking at 10.6 already just by cutting one dude. All right, and Quentin Jefferson. Save another 6.5, so plus 6 point. Nope, not point. 6.5. Boom. Now we're at 17. So we're gonna go down to our next one, John Brown. So if we cut or trade, I say trade all these guys if we can. If we can get, even if it's just 6th and 7th round picks. I mean, it's better to have all those picks and, take some shots in the 6th and 7th round to try and get somebody. Every now and then you do. Look, I think Dane Jackson's going to be excellent. People say he's not fast enough, but I mean, your speed on the field is different. Tyreek Hill is widely known as the fastest player in the NFL. He ran a 4.43 at the combine, so I really don't care about combine times. They make sense some, but look at Gabriel Davis. He was somewhat of a deep threat. He ran a 4.5 plus, so who cares? Lee Evans back in the day ran a 4.4 flat. He was a dominant deep threat. You know, he would blow past everybody, and J.P. Lossman or Trent Edwards or whoever was throwing the ball would just put it up there. He was just gone. So I mean, 40 time is nice and all, but you know, it's not effective on the field. You're not in pads running that 40. So just be weary whenever you look. So John Brown, we cut or trade him. We're looking at, let me just use my other calculator here so I can get the difference before. I don't want to be punching all these numbers for no reason. It's wasting time. But I think John Brown's an interesting one because if he could rework his contract, we extend it for a year or two and then spread that money out, because he's not worth all that money. He's not worth $10 million. Right? So 9, 5, 3, 1, 250 minus 1,600,000. Boom. Let me go back to my calculator on the computer. Plus $7,931 and $250. Right? That brings us to $25 million. Okay, so who else are we talking about getting rid of here? Mario Addison. Okay, so Mario Addison. That's an easy one. I don't need to calculate that. Plus $6,162,980. Looking at $31 million in cap space. We're looking pretty good to re-sign Matt Milano, John Feliciano, and maybe Darrell Williams with that money there. We also still need to make sure we have enough money for our rookies. So there's that. If we really, really needed to squeeze some space in there, we could cut AJ Klein for another 4.4, or we could trade Mitch Morse for another, 4.7 million. But just doing those moves there, which I think everybody's on board with most of those, outside of maybe the John Brown one. We're looking at $31,282,323 in cap space. Those are solid numbers. We are not worried. We shouldn't be worried. We can really break this down and get into the cap and really have some space to make the moves that we want to make. So, what you do, if you get these guys at market value, let's just say we get them at market value, right? Market value, so we're going to subtract 1380000 from Matt Milano. Oop, one more zero. Brings our cap space to 17. We're going to subtract John Feliciano at 8400000. Brings us to 9. And then Feliciano, or Darrell Williams, minus 7900000. Now, these cap numbers aren't going to be this. They're just not. Right? You know why? Because when you sign a contract, you don't do it dumb like that where you flatten all the years. You're going to see if they'll give you a little bit of a growing period. You're going to give them a bonus to make the cap numbers lower this year. That's how they structure these contracts. So you're going to give Matt Milano a huge signing bonus. That way this year it doesn't count so much against the cap, and you can spread that out. If you wanted to re-sign Matt Milano, that might not be the smartest move for the future. So when it comes to financials, and that's going to be one of the big driving forces in this, is how financially smart these moves are. You want to make sure that you're making moves that are clearly going to, not overtake you in the future. That's one reason why we failed with Doug Whaley. He was making moves that really just didn't benefit us in the future. Paying Mario Williams $100 million. He was solid defensive end. It was a very solid defensive end for us. And I did love Mario Williams when he was on the Bills. But $100 million, man, geez Louise, that's a lot of money, And then he didn't last us for us that long. We took a really big dead cap hit when he left. You want to make sure that the guys that you're going to sign aren't guys that are only signing with you for money. And that's what Mario Williams was. He was just signing for us, or signing with us for the money. There's a lot of guys who are like that, right? When Jerry Hughes signed with us, he didn't re-sign with us just for the money. Like, he loves it in Buffalo. He loves that this place saved his career, right? So Jerry Hughes is probably worth more than what we're paying him. Another team would swoop up and take Jerry Hughes in a second. He's 32 now, so his market value, like for a trade, would go down. But you'd still probably get a third-round pick for Jerry Hughes, maybe fourth. But that's just because of his age. But he's still leading the NFL in pressures. He's just not getting home. And why is that? Because he's not getting any help. But look what he did against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. He really went out there and he really made himself look good. He shined in that game. There's no reason why you can't take, what you're doing and pick up on the tendencies. It's like the offensive line. Like, most of our offensive line is going to change this coming year unless we re-sign Feliciano and Darrell Williams, who are the only two guys who I think we should re-sign. You want to solidify your tackle position. We already have Deion Dawkins. So you sign Darrell Williams maybe to a 3-year, $25 million deal, $27 million deal. And then you give him a nice little bonus. That man will be happy. He'll stay. He likes it here. He likes Brandon Beane. He likes Sean McDermott. That's why he came here. He could have gone somewhere else on a 1-year prove-it deal, but he knew that he was going to find a home. Another thing with John Feliciano, he loves Coach Dable. So maybe he signs, a decent little deal where he gets his $8 million a year, 4 years, $32 million. Bam. I'm down for that. I'm in. Give me that. And then you look at Milano. He's looking at 13.8, and he's going to want market value. Well, he's also the kind of player who's not going to fit everybody's scheme. Somebody's going to try and squeeze him in somewhere, maybe, most likely. But he's undersized. He's 6 foot, 225 pounds, and he's built like a safety, but he plays linebacker, which a lot of teams use. Atlanta used that for a while, but yeah, and so did Jacksonville with Telvin Smith. There's a lot of players in the league who are kind of like that, but they don't fit everywhere. They don't. So maybe he comes back after he finds out the market isn't as crazy as he thought it was, especially since he has a little bit of an injury history. We may be able to get him on a cheap, not the cheap, but like somewhat of a discount from what Spot Track is tracking. But there's a lot of promise within this roster. Like, Brandon Beane didn't sign these contracts like a dummy. A lot of these guys that he signed this year were like pretty much prove-it deals. Come in here, show me what you got. We're going to give you a lot of your money in year one, and then we're not going to be responsible for years 2 and 3. In Vernon Butler's case, it's just year 2 because he only signed a 2-year deal. I think A.J. Klein will be on this team. He'll be, mostly our spell linebacker. He's going to play special teams. If Milano doesn't come back, he might start. And he looked better at his position later in the year. Granted, he's not as fast as Milano. He's not going to cover as good as Milano. But at that point, you'd put in someone like Saron Neal and a big nickel to cover a tight end or, something like that. I mean, look what the Buccaneers did to Kelsey and Hill. Their personnel doesn't match ours. They got good linebackers, but and good defensive line, but their corners aren't that great. Their safety's pretty good. Winfield Jr. was amazing, but they're I don't know who their corners are. And I know a lot of players around the league, but not really familiar with their corners. I know their safeties, Whitehead and Winfield. The middle of their defense is what's solid. The core, the outside wasn't spectacular. If you look at the Bills' defense, we got Edmonds, we got Hyde, we got Poirier, we have Oliver. We need another piece in the middle of that defense. We need to get our defensive ends square. I think that Epinesa can actually gain a little bit more weight since he lost some. Become that power rusher that he was. He's not really a speed rusher. He lost a little weight, so he's probably a little faster, but he's probably going to be more effective as a big guy. There's also other moves you can make. Clowney's going to be out there. He's going to want a prove-it deal, and that's all we're going to sign him to is a prove-it deal. Like, he's known to be a kind of a lazy guy. He's known not to be a worker. So, in a rotational role like he would be in Buffalo, it might be the perfect fit for him because we're not going to put him in there for more than 50% of the snaps anyway. He's going to be rotating in. There's no reason to really look for somebody who's going to look for big money. And someone like Clowney who just come off 2 injury years, go for it. Why not? I'm not a big fan of his, but if it's going to be a little $5 million deal to bring in Jadeveon Clowney to help shore up the line, go for it. Why not? Why wouldn't you do that? There's a lot of stuff out there that you can actually look at. But if you make those cuts and trades, whatever, and or trades, you're looking at $31,282,323. Like I said before, that ain't bad. That's not a bad spot to be. I'd be happy with that. And personally, some of our guys on our practice squad, I like quite a bit. I like Justin Zimmer. I like some of these less expensive guys. Uh, Justin Zimmer, Mike Love, Trey Adams. I like Trey Adams. Do I think he's as good as Williams? No, but I also don't know because he's not played yet. But he's been practicing with an NFL team for a whole year, so next year might be the year to see. There's a lot of stuff that you can break down. I think Dane Jackson's going to be fine. I think Cam Lewis is going to be a decent backup to Taron Johnson, who's also going to be looking to get paid here in a year or two. So, we have the future to look at too. Alexa Ron Neal, we could potentially move him into Milano's spot. He played that spot quite a few times last year. So it's not like we don't have people who fit. I wouldn't mind seeing what Jaquan Johnson can do. There's a lot to explore. But the possibilities are pretty good. The possibilities are pretty good. Here's another one that I see. If we moved on from Harrison Phillips, he's due to get paid $1.143 million, and his dead cap is $193,000. So we could move on from Harrison Phillips and be fine too. Personally, I wouldn't because he looked a lot better later in the year last year. Why would you do that? He's a perfect backup to Ed Oliver, because he's going to play that 3-tech, right? That's what Ed Oliver and Harrison Phillips naturally are, the 3-techs. Harrison can kind of play both 1 and 3, but we need that big bastard to go in there and play the 1, and that star. Unless he retires, at which point that'll free up a lot of cap space for us. God, good Lord, if that would make it unnecessary to release or trade John Brown, which would keep our receiving core really potent. So, there's a lot of different moves that can be made here. There's a lot of different ways that you can manipulate money too. Look at this, Tyler Matakevich. If we cut him, we save $3.35 million. That's another guy you can cut. I like him a lot, though. I do like him as a special teamer. Special teams is the forgotten realm where people just forget that you need players who can play there too, which is why a lot of people were mad at Tywan Jones on the team. But as a gunner, he's excellent and he's cheap. He's cheap. Like if we didn't sign him, he might have gone somewhere else as a gunner and been cheap for them too. But he's familiar with Buffalo. He came back. But one of the things that we really need to focus on as well is the center. Like we were talking about the defense, or I was talking about the defense, right? Is that the center of the defense? If you look at the Buccaneers, and if you look at the Chiefs to an extent, like they got Tyrann Mathieu. I forget who their safety is, but then they got Chris Jones. They got the other defensive tackle. Their linebackers.
Yeah, just make sure you make your notes. Put what your signal strength was at the doorbell too. That way it's in note.
But that's my boss. I'm on light duty, so I gotta wait for them to give me tasks. Anyways, I had a car accident. Don't worry about it. Anyway, the center of the defense, the Chiefs' center of their defense, their linebackers and stuff, they're okay. They're not great. They're not White and Levante David, right? They're not Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. They're okay. They're serviceable. But the Bills need to really match up with that defensive tackle, right? Our safeties are good. We need to get Milano back or get another linebacker, and we need to get, our defensive line square, and that'll take care of that. Same thing goes on offense, though. The same thing goes on offense. A lot of people are talking about we need to draft a running back like Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, and that's great. If they do that, that's fine with me. I don't mind it, but more important than that, we need guard play. Ike Blocker was a very serviceable guard for us this year as a pass blocker. But as a run blocker, he is super trash. He missed a lot of blocking assignments. When I watched the tape, I watched plays where Mitch Morse would, help double a defensive tackle with Feliciano, and Ike Bottker was just flat out miss the 3 tech. And they're in the hole, and they're meeting freaking Singletary right in the backfield, or Moss. And there was a lot of plays like that where Ike Bottker just flat out misses. Brian Winters, too. He can take a walk, too. I like Ike Bottker. You can sign him as a backup. He's fine as a backup, but as a starter, that's a no-go. That's a no-go for me. Feliciano is a mauler. Mitch Morse is okay at run blocking. He's okay. Deion Dawkins is a pretty good run blocker. Darrell Williams is a pretty good run blocker. But Ike Bottker was just a glaring hole at run blocker. And we need somebody who can go in there and really, put that block on. Or, dare I say, bring back Pat DeMarco. Dare I say it. I mean, if I look at the numbers here, which I will. All right, Devin Singletary. From what I understand, his numbers were very similar to last year's, except for one. And that one's big. That one number is going to tell you a lot. All right, so in year one, Devin Singletary rushed 151 times for 775 yards, 2 touchdowns. But he averaged 5.1 yards per carry. This year, he ran the ball 156 times, 687 yards. So more rushes, fewer yards, 2 touchdowns, same there, for 4.4 per carry, right? His yards per carry came down by almost a full yard. And that's because our run blocking was atrocious. It was terrible. There were plays where he out there still making people miss, but the blocking was terrible. Now, this year, receiving, his numbers went up. He went from 41 catches to 50. He went from 194 yards to 269 yards. He went from 6.7 yards per reception to 7.1. Last year, he had 2 receiving TDs. This year, he didn't have any. But it comes with the territory, especially when Josh Allen's dropping dimes on Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and Dawson Knox in the end zone. Even Lee Smith had touchdown catches. So, take it for what it's worth. We just weren't throwing the ball to backs as much this year. We threw the back as much, but in the red zone, we weren't throwing the ball to the backs as much. In the red zone, look at Diggs. Diggs had like 2 catches for touchdowns in the red zone, like on the 3-yard line, where he threw just a wide receiver screen and Diggs is in. This is what it is. There's no reason to look too deep into things. You can just look at the numbers and kind of break stuff down. And if you look at the numbers and you kind of correlate what happened on the field, you can see why things went the way they went. We really need a guard. A guard should be a priority in free agency or the draft. Period end. And if they want to move on from Mitch Morse and keep Feliciano, I like Feliciano as center. He's a dog, right? Mitch Morse is super smart and capable, but he's also had all the concussions, and he's also not a dog like Feliciano is. Feliciano is a dog, and he's smart enough to do it. You want your center to be smart. Feliciano was smart enough to do it. He looks good while he's doing it, and he wants to run the ball. Let's run the ball. I'm not saying that we want to run the ball, more than 40% of the time, but he wants to run the ball. He wants to set up the pass with the run, and sometimes you got to set up the run with the pass. Sometimes you got to do like Mahomes, where you're throwing, and now they're playing back. Oh, hey, Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I need you to go ahead and eat. So that way they come back down in the box, and I can chew them up again. And that's what the run does for you. Right? The NFL nowadays isn't a running league. The run can help though. It's a counterbalance. Right? When teams are playing deep on you because you're carving them up, then you're gonna pull your guys forward, and then your run game is gonna eat, and now they have to stuff the box because they have to respect that, because you could break one, or you could just die, make them die by 1,000 cuts. There's just so much that goes into this stuff. There's so many layers to the football game. This is why I love football so goddamn much. It's one of my favorite games. It is my favorite game. And it's my second favorite sport, only to fighting, which I dabbled in a little bit when I was in the Army. But there's no clear-cut path to how the Bills can do this. There's many options, though, and that's why I'm excited about this offseason to see what we do, because we could literally trade out, create a bunch of cap space, trade out of some of these contracts. Hey, you want Quinn? You want Jefferson? Here, we'll give him to you for a 7th. Hey, you want Vernon Butler here? We'll give him to you for a 5th. You want this guy? Cool. We'll give him to you for a 4th. Hey, you want this guy? Brandon Beane pulls these moves. He always has. He's always been able to move guys through trade. No question. So here's the big question. Does he make these moves? Which of them does he make? He might not make all of them, but he should. Does he make these moves? Does he make all these moves or just some of them? And what does he get in return for these moves? Those are the big ones. Those are the questions that we should be asking. Who we can get, there are plenty of free agents out there. The cap is not going up this year, so teams are going to be in dire straits. Good players are going to get cut, and they're going to have to take less money, which is why Milano's market being so high is crazy, because there's going to be a lot of good players out there. He might get overlooked. Teams are going to have to cut people. Hell, Levante David might be out there, I think. I believe his contract is up. If I go to Spot Track, let me go to Levante David. What are you looking for? I'm looking for you to stop advertising. David. Carolina Panthers. Let's see what we got. He's not a Panther. What am I doing? He's a Buccaneer. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Update. Let's see. So Levante David, $12.7 million. So he's worth less than Milano technically on the open market, and he does look to be a free agent. Let's see. Yep, free agent. And some teams are going to have to cut players. They're going to have to cut ties with players. What's crazy here? Here's a crazy thing. The Buccaneers just won a Super Bowl, and they have $30 million in cap space. They're not hurting like at all, but they do have a bunch of free agents like Chris Godwin, Levante David, Leonard Fournette, Shaq Barrett. They're going to have to pay some of these guys, so that money's not going to last. But still, they just won a Super Bowl and they got $30 million. So they can make moves. They can make it. They have options. It's gonna be wild, but I can't wait till March. I can't wait till March so we can see these free agents move around and do what they got to do. It's gonna be, interesting. It's gonna be, it's gonna be what it is. I can't wait. That just pumps me up. So, guys, I think that's this video. I'm gonna have to do these other videos, for other things. I got different things I want to talk about, like the effect of the Wonderlic score on quarterbacks. I got to do that one because I have a theory that I've actually read up on and looked at some data on, and there's an article I read about it too, where if your quarterback will be successful, Wonderlic scores, and it talked about Super Bowls and MVPs, but it didn't talk about whether you guys gonna be a franchise guy. So I'm gonna have to get into that video too. But hopefully I'm going to start uploading more often. But this one was mostly about my Bills. So there we go. Maybe I'll break down some of the team's salary caps, but I don't know. I'm mostly a Bills fan. I do follow some other teams. Maybe looking at other teams will give me more insight into who will be available for my Bills. So let's go Buffalo. Go Bills all day, every day. Next season, let's go get that ring. And I'm out.